House Bill 912.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. May my panel approach? Thank you. Let's see. And I believe we have a student from the Federation of the Blind as well.
Good. Let's stick to these questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So thank you. For the record, Delegate Michelle Guyton, District 42B in Baltimore County. And I really do love you guys. And I know that you love me because all of my bills so far have had no fiscal note, and they're really simple and easy to pass. So I'm still hopeful and crossing my fingers that that will happen. But today I'm asking for your thoughtful consideration of House Bill 912. What House Bill 912 does is require training for instructors in our institutions of higher learning on the Americans with Disabilities Act and appropriate classroom accommodations for our students with disabilities. So I really, really cannot express my appreciation more for the conversation and the ongoing collaboration that I've had with Secretary Rye, and you will see that they're here today in support of this piece of legislation. He has been someone, even before he was in the position of Secretary of MHEC, he has, in his role at Montgomery College, really done groundbreaking work and supporting his students there with disabilities. So I know that his heart was in the right place, so I went to him to work on this legislation. And he's been terrific, as has everyone at MHEC. So it is already federal law, right, that educational or training institutions have to accommodate our students with disabilities, right? That's through the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 504. These probably sound familiar to you, the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. So it is already law. However, the way that they do that is incredibly inconsistent across our Maryland institutions. Some of them do a great job, and I'll throw out Montgomery College, where Secretary Rye was leading the charge, and some of them do not a great job at all, and I won't say any names, but you might hear some today in testimony. So there are several reasons that I brought this bill. Many of you know that I have been an educational advocate for a lot of years. I used to work for a nonprofit in the Baltimore, Washington, Pennsylvania, Virginia area, and I did a lot of education, both K-12 schools and also at some of our state schools, colleges, and universities to help professors and others dealing with students realize their responsibilities and come up with creative accommodations or whatever the student needs to help them be successful in schools. But 2-3 years ago, a woman named Laurel Murray came to me with a group of students who were all students in Maryland schools. And she said, we're really having a lot of problems here, some of us as students and some of us as professors. All right. So I am going to, with your patience, I promise not to go too long, but usually I'm pretty short, read a little bit of her testimony, because even though she is here with us, if you want to stand, Laurel, she was unable to sign up appropriately, so I promised that I would share her words. This bill comes from her, and it also is a recommendation of the Office of Autism Coordinator and the Autism Stakeholder Group from this past year's report. So Laurel is an engineer. She's a former instructor at, should I say your? Yeah, you can say. Okay. Anne Arundel Community College and Howard Community College, who is herself hearing impaired. She also has ADHD, and she shares in her letter, which we will get to all of you, her experiences as a student in Maryland schools, where she took 3 years longer than other students to attain her master's in engineering. So obviously an incredibly capable young woman who was not able to achieve at the same rate as many of her classmates. And because she says now, because her disability accommodations were not appropriately implemented, even those that had been already approved. Right? And that's important to know. Right. She had to finish her advanced calculus courses. She had to fail and retake several courses because of disability accommodations, but she had to finish actually online when these schools could not actually accommodate her appropriately. So later, after she successfully got her master's, she was an instructor, and she reports that she received no help to support students with disabilities, and even after asking multiple people for help, trying to figure out how to help them, she didn't get anywhere. She was actually, in fact, and this is sort of a whistleblower situation at this point, she was told by her colleagues and the school to grade one of these students very, very harshly to encourage him to drop out of her class so that she wouldn't have to deal with it. Okay. She also reports that many students she taught came to her and shared stories about ill treatment or refusal to implement accommodations that had been pre-approved. So Laurel's with us and brought this bill to us because she believes that so much of these problems could have been avoided with mandatory training on something that we are already supposed to be doing by law. So thank you for that, Laurel. So and I'll just say, I know personally that it's true because as a teaching assistant when I was in graduate school, and then as a baby university professor at a very large state institution, I taught introductory psychology classes to sometimes up to 200 to 300 students at a time. I was a psychologist with a PhD and still was not taught, nor did I know through my studies, how to appropriately accommodate these students who had different sorts of disability, ranging from hearing impaired like Laurel to visually impaired and other sorts of issues. So it would have made me so much better as a professor if I had been taught this information, and it would have helped my students so much more if I had had it. So I've also had personal stories with my own sons with disability who we made a very concerted effort looking for colleges that would support their special needs. And we had to do that out of state because I had already worked so much with our institutions within our state that I knew there was not a place here that I was comfortable sending them. And I just really want you to hear that because I love Maryland and I love our school system. But they need to go about this in a better way. So I would like to help change that to support our Maryland schools and our Maryland students. So I do have to push back briefly on, there is a fiscal note on this bill. It's not a big one, but it's bigger than it should be. And the reason is that even though you have some testimony to the contrary, which is very surprising to me, from, I think, University of Maryland system saying that they would have to create this program and that they don't have it easily accessible now. It is already law that they do this, right? And I have a list here of every single institution, public and private, in the state of Maryland, and a link to their disabilities training program. So the fact that they believe that they will need extra funding to create it, I hope you will look upon that very skeptically. Because here you go, and I'm happy to share that with anyone because my lovely staff did a great job and spent a lot of time putting that together. So this bill really doesn't have to create anything new. In the bill, MHEC can develop a program for our schools to use, or they can let them use these that are already developed with approval. And I haven't looked at every single one, but I've looked at enough to know that these are going to be okay. These are going to fulfill the letter of the law, right? So all Maryland schools should enforce compliance with this training that they already have. Okay? And that's all this bill is asking them to do. So thank you for your time. I know that's a little longer than I usually go, but I am so grateful for my panel, and I'd be happy to answer questions when they're done. Thank you. Who wants to go first?
My name. Good afternoon.
Okay, 1 second. You can start. Okay. Can you pull this closer?
Yeah.
That's really close. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Justin Stocker. I'm a resident of Anne Arundel County. I am with the Developmental Disabilities Council of Maryland, who has a written testimony on HB 912. This bill requires professors in colleges to have training on those with disabilities so that they can succeed the way I have in college. Yes, I am an individual with low vision as well as cerebral palsy. I graduated from Anne Arundel Community College in 2014 with an associate's degree in computer science. I was able to have, I was fortunate enough to have the accommodations such as extended time in the testing center, as well as having them read out tests for me while I dictated my answers. I was also fortunate enough to have note takers who I'm very grateful for, who took their time to take notes for me in class and who were compensated for their time, of course. Without these accommodations, I wouldn't have been able to succeed. I wouldn't have been able to succeed at my time at AACC. And I hope that others can be as fortunate as I am, because currently that is not the case. That is why I and the council am in support of HB 912. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to put this right in front of you. Here.
The next witness like to provide testimony.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Sean Abraham, and I recently graduated from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, with my degree in political science. So I was set to graduate in December of 2023. Sadly, that did not happen. I took a required science class to graduate. It was an introductory physics class. And I took AP Physics in high school, so I knew that with the right accommodations, I could definitely succeed. Now, the content was highly visual. I did injure my hand in the beginning of the semester, and so I was having a lot of issues. So I went to the professor, and she was not very willing to accommodate, not willing to make exceptions or extended deadlines or extended times for tests or give alternative assignments. Maybe she thought that it would lower the academic standard of the class to do so, but if she knew more about accommodations, she might understand that that was not the whole purpose. That's not the purpose of accommodations, to do that. In fact, it's the opposite. So I spent this whole semester studying for physics with the help of friends who were describing graphs on this multitude of assignments to me. I was living in a state of anxiety because I was constantly emailing the professor, my disability office, trying to figure out what she would allow me to do. Sometimes she did give me certain accommodations, but they were at the last second and I didn't have time to implement them. Just a variety of different things. I sometimes didn't know if my assignments would be graded because perhaps they were late because I would already fallen behind. And so I worked so hard on this class, I couldn't focus on other classes much. And at the end of the day, I received an F in this class. I also failed another class as well because I was working on this class. To finish, most professors I do meet are great and they want to help. So I think for both sets of professors, those who are willing to learn and those who are not, this training would be vital for the success of students like me. Thank you.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and respected members of the House Appropriations Committee. For the record, my name is Charlotte Broderick, and I'm here today in my capacity as one of the co-directors of student advocacy with the Student Government Association of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And I'm here today to ask for a favorable report on House Bill 912. My work with UMBC's SGA revolves predominantly around ensuring an equitable and supportive environment for all students at the university, but specifically those students with disabilities. When I took this position in August of last year, students reported to me the noncompliance of certain instructors when it comes to administering student accommodations that are stipulated by their 504 plans. While avenues for recourse are in place at the university, no student should be denied their accommodations to begin with. House Bill 912 ensures that instructors are properly trained regarding institutional obligations outlined by federal laws like the Rehabilitation and Americans with Disability Acts. With this training, instructors will be educated about the essential nature of accommodations for students with disabilities, hopefully eliminating any further instances of noncompliance. I myself am very fortunate to have been provided with the resources and support in life that allowed me to be approved for accommodations at UMBC. These are luxuries that are not available to all students with disabilities. Even then, it was a struggle to get these accommodations, which I started to get in high school. Even with several recommendations from licensed professionals, I was still faced with questions from my high school administration that were like, are you sure you need these? Are you sure you don't want these just because classes are getting harder? Students who go through the often arduous process of getting these accommodations should be provided every assurance that they will not be withheld or improperly administered by an instructor. No student should feel that their success is restricted by the very individuals who are supposed to ensure it. For these reasons, we urge a favorable report on House Bill 912. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Derek Coley, Executive Director of the Maryland Education Commission. Thank you, Delegate Guyton, for this critical piece of legislation, House Bill 912. The Maryland Education Commission is committed to expanding educational opportunities in Maryland by addressing educational access and equity. House Bill 912 seeks to train staff in higher education on managing students with disabilities. This legislation is essential to fostering an inclusive and equitable learning environment. Staff must be equipped with the knowledge and skills necessary to support students with diverse needs as institutions strive to provide equal access to education. The proper training ensures that this happens. Delegate Guyton talked about Secretary Rye's long-term history with respect to students with disabilities. It's appropriate in terms of House Bill 912, encouraging institutions across the state of Maryland to double down their efforts to address those needs for those students. By prioritizing staff training, institutions can improve retention and graduation rates among students with disabilities, ultimately advancing their broader goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Investing in this training is not just a matter of compliance, it is a commitment to ensuring that all students, regardless of ability, have the opportunity to reach their full academic potential. Again, we encourage a favorable report on House Bill 912.
Much to the bill sponsor and the panel. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Delegate McCombs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delegate Guyton, I got a couple questions. Okay, nobody has money, right? So what I was thinking is you have Kennedy Krieger. Is it possible that you could align with them and get somebody to help develop a curriculum? That's one thought. The other thing is Blumberg has a lot of money, right? And it seems like it wouldn't take a lot of money to do what you want to do. And, you know, I think everybody could probably benefit from it because I know we have a couple, well, we have one person that, and I thought he was an attorney, and I don't think he is, but he sure sounds like one. So anyway, I just think there's a way to what do I want, you know, and there's other philanthropy groups that might, because it's not a lot, and they could even probably do a film or something, you know, interactive film, and then have like a, you know, a test afterwards or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's not a big ask. Yeah. And quite honestly, it provides the individuals that want to work and want to, you know, expand their, you know, education and everything. It gives them, you know, a little, it just is motivating for them, and they can be great role models. So anyway, just a thought.
Thank you so much for that question and suggestion. I know you also have been an advocate for education for kids with disabilities in the past, so I appreciate that from you. And just since I'm here, thank you for the shout out to Kennedy Krieger, and I do sit on their board, so they do great work. I would say that if that were necessary, then all of that would be a really good idea. The point is, it isn't necessary because the programs are already available. right? So, and online modules already available. So these are things that, according to the bill, they can do it online. They can use the programs they already have, as long as they meet basic standards, which I'm assuming that the council at University of Maryland has already determined. But if not, MHEC would say, this is not a good one. So there's really not much development to be done at this point. What we're asking for them really is not to develop it, but to make it mandatory for people who are going to come into contact with their students. And that, we spoke about professors up here, but that also includes TAs, teaching assistants, instructors, adjunct instructors. Those are some of the folks who are least likely to have the experience with these students, so they need it even more. I know that one of my sons is a TA right now, and I'm pretty sure that he needs to know a lot more about how to handle different disabilities. So thank you so much for those suggestions, and thanks for your support of this idea.
Are there any other questions from members of the committee? Okay, great. We have additional witnesses who are signed up for, so if they could make their way up. We have
Thank you, Chair.
Sharon Manecki with the National Federation of the Blind of Maryland. Sharon Manecki.
No, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't planning on testifying, but I just said ditto.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, wonderful, beautiful. All right, thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, wonderful. Well, we do have additional virtual witnesses, and they'll be joining us online. Katie York and William Blake. There you go. William Blake, good to see you. 2 minutes.
William Blake, you have 2 minutes. You can start.
Thank you, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, members of the committee. My name is William Blake, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Political Science at UMBC. Although today I appear in my individual capacity, I have submitted written testimony because I was not sure if I would be done teaching to be done in time to testify in favor of House Bill 912, but I'm very pleased to be here along with two of my outstanding former students, Sean and Charlotte. I'm happy to answer your questions. I wanted to go over one more thing that wasn't included in my written remarks. UMBC's Student Disability Service Office, or SDS, does really great work. At the beginning of each semester, every faculty member will get a memo indicating which of their students have approved accommodations and what those approved accommodations are. And I think a lot of faculty assume that if they comply with the memo, that they've done everything that they need to do. And in reality, complying with the memo is just the beginning. Our SDS office has programming. It schedules events. It has resources on its website for faculty. And I think a lot of faculty don't take advantage of that because they think all they need to do is honor the memos that they get. And I think that this bill serves two purposes. One is that it would fix any negative experiences that our students are encountering in the classroom, but it also can make the classroom experience even better for our students, because in general, our faculty are diligent and caring. All what they need is to be prompted to think more systematically about how they interact with their students, how they assess their students. And so I urge a favorable report, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have one more witness, Katie York. 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie York, and I'm here to express my strong support for HB 0912. I'd like to thank Delegate Guyton for introducing this bill. I've worked in Maryland community colleges for 16 years in various administrative roles, including curriculum writing and workforce program development. I've also had the pleasure of teaching continuing education courses for the last 8 years, and I'm currently a student pursuing an MS in disability services and higher education. I'm also here as a person with non-apparent disabilities. I have ADHD and I am autistic. I've exercised my legal right to access accommodations through my MS program through my school's disability office. I come here to comment how I've witnessed firsthand as a student, staff member, instructor, the challenges that come with navigating higher education for people with disability. There's really a significant gap between the instructor in the classroom knowledge of those existing federal laws related to disability accommodations. That lack of knowledge, not only can it be like a legal liability, but it also is a really negative experience for both the instructors and the students. I've seen amazing instructors inadvertently create barriers for disabled students because they didn't have the training that they needed regarding those existing federal laws related to disabilities. Now that means the student is responsible for advocating for themselves. They may not necessarily know all of their legal rights, and so they may end up having not only a negative experience, but end up maybe potentially being unsuccessful and dropping out of class or the program. It's also just exhausting and stressful for an individual who does know their legal rights to constantly have to educate someone in a position of power.
Thank you. You can just wrap it up, couple conclusions.
Sure, yeah,
sentences.
just as noted Delegate, many of these schools already have trainings. It's just not mandatory for all instructors, and that's what's so important about this bill, is that it's not going to be a huge impact requiring a lot of money to create new programs, just making sure that information is more widely available to the existing employees and future staff.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Are there questions for the online witnesses? Okay, thank you both for being here so much. Have a great day. That concludes the bill hearing.